Okay, so this is lesson 3.4, and I'm calling this Arithmetic and Geometric Sequences. And there's going to be a quick little bonus lesson, because it's on the homework. There's going to be a bonus lesson on writing equations given 2 points. Given 2 points. Okay, I'm going to do a quick little mini lesson on that just so you guys know how to do that. And make sure, when you guys write this down, make sure you're writing our goal too. It's up there on the board. It's on the box. I'm going to write it down here. This is what we're trying to do. If we do this, we know we've had a good lesson. We will understand the difference between arithmetic and geometric sequences. So, this is pretty much arithmetic and geometric are just names for things that we've already done to this point, but it's important to know what things are called so that we can figure out exactly how they behave. When I say arithmetic, what do you guys think of when I say arithmetic? Arithmetic. What is arithmetic? Yeah.
Anything that basically was before algebra, math without variables or anything like that.
Math without variables. Okay, cool.
That's probably completely off topic, but I just think of a clock when I hear arithmetic. I don't know why, but
You think of a clock. Oh, okay. I can kind of see that. Arithmetic is simply, it's the most basic form of math. It's adding and subtracting. That's all arithmetic is. Arithmetic is just adding and subtracting. Okay? And so when I say an arithmetic sequence, what do you think is going on with that sequence? Naya? You're adding or subtracting, right? So like when we had, you guys remember this example? We had this. This is step 0. Step 1 was this. Step 2 was this. Right? You guys remember this guy? And so we had our little chart buddy. I'd say minute, 0, 1, 2. Dots would be at 0 I have 1, I have 5, I have 9. And when I look at what my change is, when I go from one step to the other, what am I doing? I'm adding 4. I'm adding 4, right? Plus 4, plus 4, plus 4. This is an arithmetic sequence. Why? Arithmetic sequence is when we add or subtract. To get the next number in the sequence. Okay? It will typically look like this. If we have the explicit formula, it will typically look something like, y equals, some number times our x plus, whatever our starting amount is, right? If we have a recursive, I'll scoot it up. Sorry, guys. Thank you. If we have a recursive, it typically looks like, f of x equals f of x minus 1 plus whatever our common difference is. I'll say CD. Okay, right? This is what it looks like. We're multiplying and adding, and we're doing simple math, right? We're doing the simple math. Now, geometric is significantly different. Now, when we're talking about geometric, 3D, yeah, more complex, has another layer to it. There are more things going on. Yes?
In recursive, what's in the F? Like is F, and then what's in the front?
F of x. I use x. So for geometric, this is where we start looking at things like our chain letter that we just did for the ice cream, right? When we look at geometric sequences, you know, it's hard to visually represent it, right? Because, you know, on day 1 we had 8, on day 2 we had 80, on day 3 we had 800. Like, I'm not going to draw 800 dots right here. It's a lot, okay? So geometric might look like this. Maybe it's something like this, where it's like we start with 2 dots on day 0. On day 1 we have 4 dots. On day 2 we have 8 dots. And then on day 3 we have, how many do we have on day 3? We don't know. 16 dots. Oh, thanks. That was Amy who took this class last year for everybody, so I mean, don't give her too much credit. Right? But let's look at what's going on with this sequence, because this sequence is significantly different than the arithmetic sequence. What's different about this sequence? No. It's multiplying. Thank you. Absolutely. Let's look at the number of dots we have. Okay? On day 0 we have 2. On day 1 we have 4. On day 2 we have 8. On day 3 we have 16. So what's going on here? What's going on with this one? Well, we're not adding from one step to another. We are multiplying by 2. We are multiplying by 2. We are multiplying by 2. We are having that large growth, and we call this exponential growth. Okay? It's growing very, very fast. So what happens here is our explicit functions, are the way we write it explicitly, we're going to have, it's going to look a little bit different. It's going to look like this. It's going to be like, you know, y equals our starting amount times our rate raised to, you know, like the x power, right? The explicit will have an exponent in it. Exponent. Because we're multiplying by a lot of 2's in this case. You know, it's going to look something like this. Whereas our recursive version, we'll have our f of x equals our previous step, f of x minus 1. And this time it's going to be times some number. I'm going to call it r. Doesn't matter what it is. To multiply by some ratio, by some number. Okay? So what is the main difference between arithmetic and geometric? Can somebody just kind of sum that up real fast? Like what is the key difference between what's going on in the red in the arithmetic and what's going on in the green in the geometric? What's the main thing going on there? Connor? Exactly. So in arithmetic, we're going to be doing pluses and minuses. In geometric, we're going to be multiplying and technically division as well. So those are the things that we're looking for. So when you see a sequence and you see that it's doubling, it's tripling, or it's halving, that's how you know it's geometric, because we're multiplying or dividing. If you see a sequence like the push-ups and you're just doing 2 more push-ups each day, that's going to be arithmetic, because we're just adding on top of it from one day to another. Okay? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Like, Victor, I get the difference. How do we feel? Cool. Can I see everybody, please? I just want to make sure, you know. Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Cool. All right. So that's this stuff. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next section. I'm going to talk about writing equations given 2 points. If you need to see this, you know, of course, check the video. And then I have the hard copy here if you just need to double check your notes. One thing in your homework that's a little bit tricky, and I just want to do a sample problem with you guys, is writing an equation given 2 points. Okay, so what I need to do this is I just need 2 points. I need 2 points. Does anyone want to make up a point for me? 3, 6. 3, 6 is 1 point. So I'm gonna call that my green point. 3, 6. Can I get another point? Yes. 2, 0. 2, 0 is my second point. Okay. So given just these 2 points, we can write the equation of a line, because all we need are 2 points to make a line. I don't even have to graph it. Why? Because I am very smart. And I'm going to show you how to be very smart too. So the first thing that we need to remember is, hey, what is the equation of a line? And I know that the easiest one is that slope-intercept form, right? You guys remember this, slope-intercept? What is slope-intercept form? Thank you, Ethan. Y equals mx plus b. Okay? So there are 4 things I need to know. Y, m, x, b. Now, these points have an x and a y. That's 2 of the things that I need to know. Yes? Standard form.
Y equals y2 plus y.
The slope formula that we learned yesterday, that is going to be critical in what we're doing, because what we want to do is we want to figure out what this m is, right? M is our slope. And yesterday we learned this thing called the slope formula. Slope formula. And as Edith just reminded me, m is equal to the y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to look at my 2 points, and I'm going to figure out what my slope is. So my m is going to be, well, I'll say orange is my second point because it's the second one I wrote. My y is 0. My x is 2. I'm going to say the green is my first point because it's the first one I wrote. And my y is 6. And my x is 3. I do that. I do some math. 0 minus 6 is a negative 6. 2 minus 3 is a negative 1. Negative 6 divided by negative 1 is 6. So now I know that my slope is 6. I know that my slope is 6. So I know that y is going to equal 6x plus b. So now I need to figure out what my b is, right? I need to know what my intercept is. How do I do that? How do I figure out what my intercept is? Well, it turns out it's not that terribly hard. I have 2 points. I have 2 x's and y's. X is 3, y is 6, x is 2, y is 0. If I take these points and plug it into my equation, well, I'll have y, m, and x, and the only thing I'll be missing is b. So I can solve for my b by plugging in a point. And I want you guys to write this down. Solve for b by plugging in a point. I'm going to pick the green point for no other reason than I wrote it first. So my y is 6, and that's going to equal the slope that I already found out, which is 6. My x is 3, so that's going to be times 3 plus b. And so I have everything color-coded so that we know where we got it. The green numbers are my x and y that I got from my point. The blue number is 6, which I got from my slope formula. Now I have an equation. I'm only missing one variable. That variable is b, so I can start to solve it. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. So 6 equals, 6 times 3 is 18, plus 6, plus b, my bad. I'm going to subtract 18, I end up with negative 12 equals b. I have found my b. So now I just need to write my equation. And my equation is going to be y equals, my m is 6, x, my b is negative 12, minus 12. So using just these 2 points, that we made up on the fly, and without graphing, I was able to figure out what the linear equation was. How did I do it? First, slope formula. Using these 2 points, I figured out what my slope was. Second, once I knew what the slope was, I solved for b by plugging in a point. I picked the first point, you could have picked the second point, you would have gotten the same answer. Questions on this? Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways, how do we feel? Okay, there's a couple, it's complicated steps, okay? We have complicated steps, so make sure you do this. Slope formula, then solve for b. Best of luck to you guys. I'm going to turn off the thingamajigger, and then we can get started on our homework.